He expected war. She offered herself instead, the Queen's offer to one human. Captain Julian Harker's boots echoed against the crystalline floor as he entered the throne chamber of the Azurian citadel. The cavernous room sparkled with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed like heartbeats along the walls. Through the vast dome overhead, the dying red giant star bathed everything in crimson twilight. Julian straightened his shoulders, feeling the weight of humanity's future pressing down upon them. 6 years of brutal interstellar war had brought both species to the brink of annihilation. Now, as the last surviving commander of Earth's expeditionary force, he had come alone to negotiate terms, hopefully favorable ones. Queen Nerissa of the Azurians sat upon her throne, a structure that seemed to grow organically from the floor itself. Her violet skin caught the starlight, highlighting the elegant battle scars that traced patterns across her arms and shoulders. Her silver hair cascaded like liquid metal down her back, and her crystal blue eyes studied him with unexpected intensity. "Captain Harker of Earth," she said, her voice carrying a melodic quality that seemed to resonate in the chamber. "You come seeking our surrender." Julian kept his expression neutral. "I come seeking an end to this conflict, Your Majesty. Too many have died on both sides." To his surprise, Nerissa nodded and stood. She was tall, nearly matching his 6-foot frame, her powerful yet curvy physique evident beneath her ceremonial attire, a blue metallic top reminiscent of armor and flowing black cloth that moved like water as she descended the steps toward him. "Guards, leave us," she commanded, never taking her eyes from Julian's. The 6 Azurian sentinels hesitated only briefly before filing out, leaving Julian alone with the Queen. His hand instinctively moved toward his sidearm. "If you intended to kill me, Captain," Nerissa said with a faint smile, "your weapon would not help you here." Julian relaxed his posture slightly. "Then what do you intend, Your Majesty?" Nerissa circled him slowly, her movements graceful and deliberate. "Our ancestors have fought for generations, first for resources, then for vengeance, until neither side remembers the original cause. But I see something in you that mirrors what I feel, exhaustion with bloodshed." She stopped before him close enough that he could see flecks of silver in her eyes. "I propose an alternative to surrender or continued war." "I'm listening," Julian said cautiously. "Among my people, there is an ancient custom when warring tribes wished to make peace. The leaders would form a bond, a joining of minds, bodies, and futures." Nerissa's gaze was unwavering. "I offer this to you, Captain Harker, not as conqueror or conquered, but as equals." Julian blinked, certain he had misunderstood. "You're proposing marriage? A bond more profound than what your people call marriage, a sharing of consciousness, a merging of futures." She stepped closer. "Through us, our species could understand one another as never before." "This is unexpected," Julian managed, his mind racing. "I came prepared for treaty terms, prisoner exchanges, reparations discussions." Nerissa's expression softened. "Papers and politics create fragile peace. What I propose would forge something unbreakable." Julian studied her face, searching for deception and finding none. "Why me? Why now?" "Because you came alone, unarmed, but for that small weapon. Because you speak of ending conflict rather than winning it." Her hand rose, hovering near his face without touching. "And because I have watched you on the battlefield. Captain, you fight with honor even against those you were taught to hate." Outside, the dying sun flared momentarily, casting the chamber in deep crimson. In that light, Julian saw vulnerability beneath Nerissa's regal bearing, the weight of a leader who had seen too much death. "I need time to consider this," Julian said finally. "Of course." Nerissa nodded. "Return tomorrow with your answer. But know this, Julian Harker, I do not offer myself lightly. I offer a future where our children would know peace instead of the war that has defined both our lives." As Julian turned to leave, his mind whirled with implications. He had come expecting surrender negotiations, and found himself facing an offer more personal and profound than anything in diplomatic protocols. The doors sealed behind him with a soft hiss, leaving him alone in the corridor with a decision that would alter the course of 2 civilizations and his own heart. Julian paced the confines of his quarters aboard the Earth vessel Dauntless, his mind replaying Queen Neresa's proposition. The ship felt smaller than usual, its metallic walls closing in as he considered implications that stretched far beyond. A military strategy. A sharp knock interrupted his thoughts. "Enter," he called, straightening his uniform out of habit. Lieutenant Fiona Valenti stepped inside, her perpetually concerned expression more pronounced than usual. As his second-in-command and longest-serving officer, she rarely minced words. "The crew is talking, Captain," she said, closing the door behind her. "They know you met with the Azurian Queen alone. Some are speculating about surrender terms." Julian sighed. "It's more complicated than that. It always is with the Azurians." Fiona crossed her arms. What did she propose? Julian hesitated, then decided Fiona deserved honesty. "A bonding ritual. Between her and me. An ancient custom among her people to forge peace between warring factions." Fiona's eyes widened. "She wants to marry you. This has to be a trap." "Not marriage exactly. Something deeper, according to her." Julian leaned against his desk. "And I don't believe it's a trap. You didn't see her, Fiona. There was something genuine there. With respect, sir, they've killed thousands of our people. Their neural weapons turned entire colonies into mindless drones." Fiona's voice hardened. "And now their queen bats her. Eyelashes, and suddenly we're considering alien marriage proposals." Julian frowned. "That's enough, Lieutenant. I haven't agreed to anything yet." "But you're considering it." It wasn't a question. Before Julian could respond, his communication panel chimed. "Captain, we're detecting unusual activity in the Azurian Citadel," reported the tactical officer. "Multiple energy signatures gathering in what appears to be their council chamber. Maintain surveillance, but keep our distance," Julian ordered. "I'll be on the bridge shortly." After Fiona left, Julian stared at his reflection in the viewport. What was he considering, really? Personal feelings, diplomatic strategy, or something else entirely? Meanwhile, within the crystalline depths of the Citadel, Nerissa faced her own interrogation. "You dishonor our ancestors with this proposal," hissed Councillor Tarvek, his crest flaring with indignation. "Bonding with a human? The same species that destroyed our outer colonies?" Nerissa remained standing, refusing to be diminished by their outrage. Around the circular chamber, 11 council members watched with expressions ranging from disgust to curiosity. "I dishonor no one by seeking peace," she replied evenly. "Our world is dying. Our resources dwindle while we pour them into weapons. The humans face similar circumstances. This cycle of vengeance serves neither species." "So you offer yourself as sacrifice?" asked Elder Lyria, her ancient voice surprisingly gentle. "Or is there something more to this human captain that draws you to him?" Nerissa felt an unexpected warmth in her cheeks. "I propose a strategic alliance. Captain Harker commands respect among his people. Together we could end generations of bloodshed." "And if he refuses," Tarvek demanded, "or worse, accepts only to betray us?" "The bonding cannot be falsified," Nerissa reminded them. "The neural connection would reveal any deception." Councillor Zendra, who had remained silent until now, leaned forward. "I witnessed this human on the battlefield at Proxima Centauri. He ordered his troops to spare our wounded when they could have easily eliminated them." Her eyes met Nerissa's. "Perhaps there is wisdom in the Queen's proposal, unorthodox though it may be." The chamber erupted in overlapping arguments. Nerissa raised her hand and silence gradually returned. "I have not ruled for 30 cycles by making rash decisions," she said. "I believe this is our best path forward. However, I will not proceed without the captain's full consent and understanding of what the bonding entails." After the council dispersed, Nerissa retreated to her private garden. Ancient trees with luminescent leaves provided the only light in this sacred space. She knelt beside the reflection pool, studying her own image rippling in the silvery liquid. Had she been entirely truthful with her counsel? Was this proposal purely strategic? The image of Julian's face, his determined grey eyes, the scar along his jaw, the unexpected gentleness in his voice, rose unbidden in her mind. "My queen," came a soft voice. Her attendant Ilara approached with a bow. "The human ship shows signs of activity. Their sensors probe our defenses." "They fear deception," Nerissa murmured. "As they should, given our history." Ilara hesitated. "And the captain? Will he return?" Nerissa gazed upward through the transparent dome, where the first stars were appearing in the darkening sky. Somewhere, among them orbited the human vessel carrying Captain Julian Harker, a man who now held the future of two species in his decision. "He will return," she said with certainty she didn't entirely feel. "The question is whether he returns as diplomat, warrior, or something we have no name for yet." As twilight deepened, Nerissa allowed herself a moment of vulnerability no subject would ever witness. She closed her eyes and whispered an ancient prayer to ancestors who had never known humans existed, asking for wisdom in a situation no queen before her had ever faced. The ceremonial chamber glowed with ambient light that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. Julian stood at the entrance, momentarily transfixed by the circular pool at the center. The liquid within wasn't water, but something more viscous, shimmering with bioluminescent particles that swirled in hypnotic patterns. "It is called Memoria," said Nerissa, appearing silently at his side. She had exchanged her formal regalia for simpler attire, a fitted silver-blue garment that reminded Julian of ancient Greek chitons from Earth's history, the essence of our collective consciousness, distilled over generations. Julian nodded, trying to maintain his composure. After 24 hours of deliberation and heated debates with his officers, he had returned, alone again, to explore this possibility. Not to accept, not yet, but to understand. "What exactly does this first ritual involve?" he asked, his voice echoing slightly in the chamber. Nerissa gestured toward two raised platforms on opposite sides of the pool. "The trial of trust is the first of 3 phases in the bonding process. We will each immerse our hands in the Memoria, while focusing on significant memories. The fluid connects our neural patterns, allowing each to experience the other's past." Julian frowned. "You'll be able to access military information?" "This is not an intelligence operation, Captain," Nerissa said, a hint of sharpness in her tone. "The Memoria reveals emotional truths, formative experiences, core memories, not tactical data or security codes." "I meant no offense," Julian said. Quickly. "This is unfamiliar territory." Nerissa's expression softened. "For both of us. No Azurian has ever bonded with a human. The risk is mutual." They approached the platforms and Julian noticed intricate carvings in the stone, symbols and patterns that seemed to pulse with subtle energy. "Do I need to do anything specific?" he asked. "Simply submerge your hands and remain open to the connection," Nerissa explained. "Resistance causes pain, so try to relax your mind. The process takes approximately 20 of your Earth minutes." Julian removed his uniform jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and took his position. Across the pool, Nerissa did the same. Their eyes met briefly, before they both lowered their hands into the luminescent fluid. The sensation was immediate, a tingling that raced up Julian's arms and exploded behind his eyes in a kaleidoscope of colors. Then, suddenly, he wasn't himself anymore. He was a young girl with violet skin, running through crystalline corridors, hiding from tutors, dreaming of adventure beyond the citadel walls. He was an adolescent Nerissa, mastering combat forms with fierce determination, while male classmates whispered that a female would never lead their people. He was Nerissa, on her coronation day, bearing the weight of the ceremonial crown as her dying mother whispered final wisdom. The scenes shifted rapidly, each carrying emotional imprints more powerful than the visual details. Julian felt Nerissa's anguish at ordering her first military strike against human colonies, her horror at the casualties, her gradual hardening as the war escalated. Simultaneously, Nerissa was experiencing his memories. She was a boy on a farming colony, watching in wonder as starships broke atmosphere. She was a teenage Julian determined to escape the limited horizons of agricultural life, enlisting in Earth's defense forces against his parents' wishes. She was Julian, receiving his first command, pride mingling with terror at the responsibility for so many lives. She was Julian, witnessing the aftermath of an Azurian attack, holding a dying friend, making a promise to seek peace, not vengeance. When the connection finally dissolved, both participants gasped as if surfacing from deep water. Julian stumbled backward, overwhelmed by the intimacy of what he had just experienced. Across from him, Nerissa appeared equally shaken, her luminescent eyes wide. "I felt your grief," she said softly. "When your homeworld received news of the Epsilon massacre, you lost someone there." Julian nodded, his throat tight. "My younger sister. She was a botanical researcher." He paused. "And I felt your determination when you ascended the throne, your mother's final words to you about finding a different path than your ancestors. She foresaw that perpetual war would destroy us both," Nerissa acknowledged, though I doubt even she imagined this particular solution. A moment of silence stretched between them, filled with unspoken understanding. The shared memories had created a bridge neither had anticipated, not just knowledge of events, but genuine empathy for the emotions behind them. "Your childhood," Julian said finally. "The isolation you felt, the expectations. It wasn't so different from mine, despite our worlds being light years apart." "And your commitment to your people," Nerissa replied. "Your sense of duty. It mirrors my own." She stepped closer, her expression earnest. "Did you feel anything else, Julian, something unexpected?" Julian hesitated, then nodded slowly. "A resonance. When our memories touched, there was something familiar. As if we had known each other before," Nerissa finished. "The ancient texts speak of this phenomenon, but it is rare even among Azurian bondings." An attendant appeared at the chamber entrance, breaking the moment. "My queen, the council requests your presence. The human vessel has changed position, and they are concerned." Julian straightened. "That would be Lieutenant Valenti. She's likely worried about my extended absence. You should return to reassure them," Nerissa said. "Consider what you've experienced today. The second trial can only proceed with full commitment from both parties." As Julian prepared to leave, Nerissa caught his hand. The touch sent a spark of electricity between them, an echo of their mental connection. "What we shared today," she said quietly, "goes beyond diplomacy or strategy. You felt it too. Whatever you decide, Julian Harker, know that I have seen your true self and you have seen mine." Julian returned her gaze, aware that something fundamental had shifted between them, and perhaps between their species as well. "Until tomorrow." "Nerissa," he said, using her name without title for the first time. He departed with more questions than answers, but one certainty remained. He had glimpsed something in their shared consciousness that offered hope, not just for peace, but for a connection he had never imagined possible. "This is treason, Captain." Lieutenant Valenti's voice was ice-cold in the privacy of Julian's quarters. "You've shared classified human memories with the enemy." Julian rubbed his temples, still processing the lingering echoes of Nerissa's consciousness within his own. "They weren't tactical memories, Fiona, and after what I experienced, I'm convinced the Azurians want peace as desperately as we do." "Based on a mind-altering alien ritual?" Fiona scoffed. "You're being manipulated." Before Julian could respond, Communications Officer Darius Reed burst in without knocking. "Sir, urgent transmission from Earth Command. Admiral Blackwood demands immediate contact." Julian felt a knot form in his stomach. He had informed Command about negotiations, but had deliberately omitted the nature of Nerissa's proposal. "Patch it through here, private channel." Admiral Blackwood's weathered face appeared on the screen, her expression grim. "Captain Harker, intelligence indicates unusual activity within the Azurian citadel. Our deep cover operative reports their weapon systems are being quietly brought online." Julian frowned. "That contradicts everything I've observed, Admiral." "Your observations may be compromised," Blackwood replied sharply. "We're detecting traces of unknown neurochemical compounds in your last medical transmission. You're to withdraw immediately and prepare for a strategic strike. That's an order." After the transmission ended, Julian stood silent, his mind racing. The trust he'd felt during the ritual couldn't have been fabricated. He'd experienced Nerissa's sincerity firsthand. "Prepare the shuttle," he said suddenly. Fiona stepped forward. "Sir, the Admiral just ordered—" "I need to speak with Queen Nerissa immediately." "Something isn't right." Julian fixed her with a determined stare. "Lieutenant, you have two choices. Relieve me of command if you believe I'm compromised, or trust that I'm acting in humanity's best interests." Fiona hesitated, then sighed. "I'll prepare the shuttle, but I'm coming with you this time." Deep within the Citadel, Nerissa faced her own crisis. Alarms blared through the crystalline corridors as she rushed toward the defense chamber, Councillor Zendra at her side. "The orbital platforms activated automatically," Zendra explained breathlessly. "Someone overrode the security protocols." They burst into the control room to find Councillor Tarvek directing technicians at the defense consoles. He turned, eyes widening briefly before narrowing in defiance. "What is the meaning of this?" Nerissa demanded. "Saving our species from your folly," Tarvek replied coldly. "We've confirmed the human vessel is preparing weapons. Your diplomatic—" "Solution has failed, my queen." Nerissa stepped forward. "Stand down immediately, that's an order." "The High Council has temporarily relieved you of command," Tarvek said, producing a ceremonial decree. "Your judgment is deemed compromised by the bonding ritual." "You falsified this document," Zendra accused, examining the signatures. "Half these council members would never—" A sudden explosion rocked the Citadel. Warning systems flashed as the defensive shields activated. "What have you done?" Nerissa whispered. Tarvek smiled grimly. "Simply accelerated the inevitable. When the humans detect our defensive posture, they'll attack. And when they do, your misguided peace will die with them." Julian's shuttle approached the Citadel just as the Azurian defense platforms began to glow with charged energy. "They're activating weapons," Fiona shouted, reaching for the controls. "We need to abort." "No," Julian pushed her hand away. "Open a direct channel to the Citadel. Emergency frequency." The communication system crackled to life, but instead of Nerissa, Councillor Tarvek's face appeared. "Captain Harker, how unfortunate you've returned at this moment of misunderstanding." "Where is Queen Nerissa?" Julian demanded, indisposed. "The Queen's judgment has been questioned after her inappropriate contact with you." Tarvek's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Perhaps you should return to your vessel before regrettable actions become necessary." The transmission cut abruptly. Julian exchanged glances with Fiona, whose expression had shifted from skepticism to concern. "This is a coup," she realized. "They're using us as the excuse." Julian nodded grimly. "And Admiral Blackwood is about to play right into their hands." He activated the shuttle's emergency thrusters. "We're going in." "That's suicide," Fiona protested. "No," Julian said, his determination absolute. "It's the only way to save both our peoples." Nerissa fought against the restraints binding her to the ceremonial chair in her private chambers. Tarvek had been planning this for months, positioning, loyal guards falsifying council documents, waiting for the perfect moment of vulnerability. The door burst open and Nerissa looked up expecting more of Tarvek's conspirators. Instead, she saw Julian Harker breathing hard, with a dark-haired human woman covering their retreat. "Julian," she breathed, "how did you—" "I felt your distress," he said, quickly working to free her. "After the ritual, there's a connection." I knew something was wrong. Fiona fired her weapon down the corridor. "Captain, we have company." "Tarvek has activated the defense systems," Nerissa explained, as Julian helped her up. "He plans to provoke your fleet into attacking." Julian's expression darkened. "And our admiral is ready to oblige him. We need to reach the control center." "There's another way," Nerissa said. "The second bonding ritual. If completed, it creates a neural link strong enough to override defense systems. The Citadel's core recognizes the monarch's consciousness." "You want to complete another ritual now?" Fiona asked incredulously, sealing the door against approaching guards. Nerissa locked eyes with Julian. "It's more dangerous than the first. The neural connection becomes permanent, but it may be our only option." Julian understood the implications immediately. This wasn't just about stopping a coup or preventing war. It would bind them together, irrevocably. Without hesitation, he took her hand. "Show me how." The ancient chamber deep beneath the Citadel hummed with energy older than either of their civilizations. Unlike the ceremonial spaces above, this room was primal, carved directly from the planet's crystalline core, illuminated by veins of living light that pulsed like heartbeats through the walls. "The Chamber of Souls," Nerissa explained as she activated a sequence of crystals. "The final bonding has only been performed 3 times in our recorded history." Fiona had taken position at the entrance, jury-rigging the door mechanisms to buy them time. "Whatever you're doing, do it fast," she warned. "Both our sides are minutes away from opening fire." In the center of the chamber stood 2 crystalline pillars, connected at the top by an arch of pulsing energy. Nerissa guided Julian to stand before one pillar while she took position at the other. "The ritual will connect our neural patterns permanently," she explained, her voice steady despite the chaos erupting throughout the citadel. "Our thoughts, emotions, life forces, all intertwined. It cannot be undone." Julian nodded, understanding the magnitude of the decision. "Will I still be me?" "Yes," Nerissa assured him, "but also more. As will I." 2 consciousnesses sharing. One connection, like stars in a binary system, Julian finished, separate but forever influenced by each other's gravity. A faint smile touched Nerissa's lips. "An apt metaphor, Captain." They placed their hands on the pillars simultaneously. The crystal beneath Julian's palms felt warm, almost alive, pulsing in rhythm with his accelerating heartbeat. "Focus on me," Nerissa instructed softly. "See beyond physical form to the essence beneath." The chamber disappeared as Julian's consciousness expanded. This wasn't like the first ritual, where he'd witnessed Nerissa's memories. This was experiencing her very being. Her thoughts flowed into his mind like tributaries joining a river, distinct yet merging into something greater than either alone. Above them, the arch of energy intensified, casting their shadows in sharp relief against the ancient stone. Their silhouettes seemed to blur at the edges, neither fully separate nor completely merged. Through their connection, Julian sensed the Citadel's defense systems, felt them as extensions of his own nervous system. With Nerissa guiding him, he reached out mentally toward the weapons platforms that Tarvek had activated. There, Nerissa's thoughts directed him. "We must override together." Julian focused his will alongside hers, their combined consciousness flowing through the Citadel's neural network. One by one, the defense platforms powered down, their targeting systems disengaging. Simultaneously, Julian reached out toward the Dauntless, establishing a mental link with the ship's communication array. He projected an urgent message to Admiral Blackwood. "Stand down. Coup attempt in progress. Peace negotiations continuing." The effort left them both trembling, but the bond between them strengthened with each passing moment, solidifying into something unbreakable. Suddenly the chamber door burst open. Tarvek entered with armed guards, his face contorted with rage. "Stop them," he commanded. "The bonding cannot be completed." Fiona raised her weapon, but Nerissa lifted her hand. "It is already done, Tarvek," she said, her voice carrying a dual resonance as if Julian spoke with her. "Feel the Citadel. It recognizes us both now." Throughout the massive structure, crystals pulsed in synchronization with their joined heartbeats. Guards lowered their weapons, looking confused as the primal energy of the planet itself seemed to acknowledge the new bond. Tarvek staggered backward. "Impossible. No human could—" "The ancient laws are clear," Nerissa stated, her authority absolute. "The bonding is complete. Any who challenge it, challenge the foundation of our civilization itself." Julian stepped forward, still connected to Nerissa, though they no longer touched physically. "The defense platforms are disabled. Your coup has failed, Counselor." Through their bond, Julian felt a surge of relief from beyond the Citadel. Admiral Blackwood had received his message and was standing down the fleet. The imminent catastrophe had been averted. 3 days later, representatives from both species gathered in the Grand Assembly Hall. The space had been transformed, with symbols of both Earth and Azuria intertwined in elaborate decorations that spoke of a future neither had imagined possible. Julian and Nerissa stood at the center, their formal attire blending elements from both cultures. Though the neural bond was invisible to observers, everyone present could sense the unique connection between them, the way they moved in perfect harmony, the subtle glances that conveyed entire conversations. Today marks not an ending, but a beginning. Nerissa addressed the assembly, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. For generations our peoples have known only conflict. Today we choose another path. Julian continued seamlessly. The bonding between Queen Nerissa and myself represents more than a political alliance. It demonstrates the potential for true understanding between our species, a bridge of consciousness that transcends the barriers that have divided us. Ambassador Clark from Earth stepped forward, unrolling an ornate document. The United Earth Council recognizes this union and the peace treaty it establishes. After 6 years of war, we welcome this unprecedented alliance. Elder Lyria presented a crystalline tablet inscribed with Azurian script. The High Council acknowledges the bondmates as joint rulers of Azuria, with all rights and responsibilities therein. May this union herald a new era of cooperation and shared prosperity. As the formal proceedings concluded, Julian and Nerissa stood at the great observatory overlooking both the citadel and the Earth vessels in orbit above. Through the transparent dome, stars sparkled against the velvet darkness, the same stars that had witnessed their people's conflict, now bearing witness to its resolution. "Can you feel it?" Nerissa asked quietly, her hand finding his. "The possibilities unfolding before us?" Julian nodded, experiencing not just his own hope but hers as well, multiplied and reflected between their linked minds. "It won't be easy. There will be resistance on both sides." "But nothing worthwhile ever is," she replied, completing the thought. Through their bond, Julian sensed the future taking shape, not with certainty but with potential. Children of both species playing together in the Citadel Gardens, joint scientific expeditions exploring the galaxy, cultural exchanges, technological collaborations, new understanding blossoming where hatred had once flourished. "We came expecting war," Julian mused, watching as shuttles from Earth began landing with the first diplomatic delegations. Nerissa's thoughts entwined with his, completing the sentiment he hadn't spoken aloud, and found love instead. As twilight descended on the ancient citadel, 2 figures stood silhouetted against the stars. Not human, not Azurian, but something entirely new. Pioneers of a connection that transcended species, architects of a peace, built not on treaties alone, but on the most powerful foundation of all, 2 hearts beating as one across the stars.